Should you avoid conflict to keep peace? You want to avoid conflict that may lead to further estrangement, but should you? And what will that decision cost you? Should you learn to keep your mouth shut or speak up? Whether you're in an estranged relationship or not, that's a dilemma many women face daily. And with compelling cause, there's a right and wrong way to express yourself, and it takes some navigation to communicate in a healthy manner. You may be in a relationship that's contentious, and the other person knows exactly how to trigger you. Boy, I've been there. And my natural reaction was to respond now and deal with the consequences later. I'm sure I don't have to tell you that doesn't work well. Conversely, some women have been brought up to avoid conflict at all costs. That will eat you alive. Conflict is a part of life. Unfortunately, when you're in a estranged relationship or one that's in a constant battle, it isn't easy. Stay with me as I talk about conflict and how to manage it for optimum mental health for you. Find the full transcript for this episode, plus resources for women at Estrangement, Turning Pain into Peace at beckykolb.com/5. You're listening to Estrangement, Turning Pain into Peace, a podcast and free resource for women with estranged relationships, created by me, host and coach Becky Kolb. My superpower is to help you turn your emotional pain into peace by conquering guilt and shame, rebuilding self-confidence, and developing healthy boundaries. I've dealt with estranged relationships most of my life and know both the pain and the peace. Subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss a thing. Now, let's dive into today's episode. Many relationships have been destroyed over conflict. Knowing how to navigate it will produce a positive outcome for you, even if the relationship doesn't remain intact. I've discovered that people sometimes lack the maturity to manage conflict wisely. And that's why it's so important to keep yourself in check and learn to respond to criticism and triggers that protect your mental health. I'll be the first to admit that when someone who knows my triggers begins to push those buttons, I can easily become angry and say things I later regret. It's hard not to do that when you're being attacked. Let's shift the perspective a minute. If someone that cares about you is pushing those trigger buttons, then something is going on in their world causing them to act in that manner. Often it has nothing to do with you, but you're the scapegoat. What if that person was triggered by something that causes them fear or anxiety? What if they never learned how to oversee conflict appropriately? Shifting your mindset will alleviate some of the anger and defensive posture. Taking control of your emotions is the first step. What if the person is estranged and you get the occasional text or negative comments that could lead to an all-out argument? There are some people that just love a good fight. They invite you to the party with their jabs, but guess what? You don't have to accept that invitation. Here are some tips to help navigate those situations. Calmly state that you're not interested in pursuing the conversation in their current state of mind. You can let them know that you're open to a respectful conversation. Walk away from that person if it's possible. If you're unable to walk away, go into another room and listen to music or read an enjoyable book. Relax and let your mind center to a calm and neutral state where you can think clearly. This will prevent you from lashing out and escalating the situation. I've often found that by taking these steps and sleeping on something, I'm in a different mindset and better able to manage the person and the situation. What is the desired outcome? That is so important. Stop and think with a clear mind. How do you want this to end? If you value the relationship and want restoration or reconciliation, think about how you can act toward accomplishing that goal. If this is an estranged relationship with a pattern of conflict, do you want the relationship at all? Now, I get that if it's a family member, you can't just kick them out of the family, but you can establish boundaries and limit your time around them. Considering the desired outcome is a second step in avoiding conflict that is undesired. Now, I want to be clear. Some conflict is good. It's the catalyst that helps us examine ourselves and make growth changes. It teaches us maturity and how to navigate tough relationships, and it warns us that boundaries are sometimes necessary. Don't fear conflict. Learn how to use it positively to impact your mental health. You'll find times when your only option is to avoid conflict. You'll notice a pattern with people, and you may even observe how they deal with conflict with others. My siblings and I were mouthy kids. By that, I mean we weren't afraid to speak our minds, and at times that landed us into some trouble. There's a time and place to speak up, and wisdom is the key to knowing. Some people are just conflicted, and nothing you say or do will make any difference. It's hard to keep one's mouth shut, but sometimes that's what's needed. It's wise to avoid conflict when the other person is in a blame and shame game. Belittling and shaming you is not okay, and you need to speak up and say, enough. And at times, you may be in a relationship where the other person is going through some tough times, and giving some grace is a wise thing to do. You have every right to say something that would cause conflict, but is it the right time? Is there a better way for the higher good? If you avoid conflict, however, just to keep peace, that will start a war within you. It's important to communicate your feelings in a healthy manner. And remember, you aren't responsible for how the other person reacts or responds. If you're acting respectfully, that's all you can do. Relationships are difficult at times. Learning to navigate the conflict and emotional upheavals will make a lasting impact on those that are near and dear to you. Likewise, knowing when to let go of one is paramount too. Letting go doesn't mean kicking them out of your life for good, but it may necessitate letting go for a time and hoping they'll learn how to communicate in a respectful and mature manner. Conflict is on the rise in families and in the workplace. The world is a crazy place, and people are worried about many things that can lead to angry and critical mindsets. Take a deep breath. Get your mind in a good place. Establish boundaries. And learn to navigate conflict maturely. Most importantly, remember, you're a beautiful and amazing woman. Thanks for listening to the podcast, Estrangement, Turn Pain into Peace. I know you have your own story filled with emotional pain, or know someone who does. Learn more about the successful strategies I use to help women turn that pain into lasting peace and joy. And if you know other women who struggle with estrangement, please share. Until next time, remember you're an amazing and beautiful woman.